So hello everyone, welcome to this another video of Scale Up India. I'm Abhishek Verma and you are watching the last video of 2023 and this is going to be interesting. So today we are going to discuss the ultimate Java backend developer roadmap, something which actually worked for me. Now if you will say that who am I? So let me just give you a brief about me so that you can trust a little bit more on me and you can relate with me easily. So talking about myself, as you know, I'm Abhishek Verma and I started my IT journey in 2017. Now before 2017, when I was in the college, so like every one of us learn the basic languages like Python, C and C++. But you will surely agree with me that you only learn those languages not to actually code, but to pass your exams. I mean, for most of us, that's the criteria. If there are some good people that you are actually learning for the coding, then it's well and good. But for me, it was just like I need to pass the exam and that's it. Passing the exam and then I'll forget. But at least for the placement stuff, I prepared some of the basic OOP concepts and that worked well for me. Besides that, also I had actually worked in my different projects which I shown on my resume and I was able to answer for all of those questions. And as I mentioned, some OOP questions were asked and that also I was able to answer. And hence I got placed in Infosys. But I mean, that was not that easy. Yeah. So still at that time also in 2017, so the competition was still there. But post that, I just went on to the training part and there I learned again the Python, at least I guess for 1 month or half a month. And then I switched to the Java depending on the track. And then I chose a very different path, which many of you are not going to choose, or many people don't even choose that. And the path was like instead of becoming the developer, I decided to become the trainer. So doesn't it sound something little different? Like first of all, I was not at all completely interested in the coding. I was not knowing anything. Then I learned a bit of Java and then I chose to become the trainer. And yeah, that was interesting. And becoming the trainer actually changed the things. During the trainer period, I was actually able to learn more about Java. And there only I prepared the complete roadmap along with all my years. And later on, I actually switched to the development also. And currently, I'm not a trainer in the IT company, but instead, I'm a developer in the IT company. And in order to pursue my passion of the training, I make these YouTube videos. So my goal is not to earn anything much from the YouTube videos, but just to, continue my passion of training through the help of these YouTube videos. Hence, even if I won't get multiple views like others, still I'm happy with it because at least after a few years, when I will watch these videos, I will get to know that, okay, what I knew at that point of time and what were my mistakes and what I need to learn now. So coming to the main question again. What should be the Java backend developer roadmap here? So here let's try to discuss, and what I'll do is that I will start from the complete scratch. So I'm assuming that you don't know anything about Java. So I'm going to start from that and parallelly I'll keep on telling what is required, what is mandatory, what is optional and which particular area you need to focus upon until where you can take your this Java journey. Although like as I say, this is just a journey. There is a no final target as such. So even after around 6 years of experience, I can't say that I'm a complete expert in Java. I'm also still learning. And Java is such a vast language that you can just keep on learning. Yeah. So let's get started with this. So here, if we go, first of all, we get the core Java. So in order to learn Java, we need to ensure that first of all, our basics are clear. The more clear your basics are going to be, the more better you can understand the advanced topics. So in order to start with this, the very first thing which we need to understand is the Java architecture. So you should have a clear picture of what do we mean by JDK, JVM, JRE, what is the bytecode, how the dot class gets created, what all different things are there in Java. I mean, all the basic things you should be having. Also, you can't learn Java just by watching a video or just by reading a content. Parallelly, you need to code also. So whenever you are planning to learn Java, the first thing which you need to do is that you need to watch a video, how to install JDK in your machine, and then you need to start the coding part also parallelly. And the best part is that our channel is already having that video of how to install JDK in the machine, and that also JDK 17. So continuing with this, the next thing which you need to do is like now there are going to be some basic stuff. So obviously there is going to be the hello world. So I'm not considering that here because I'm assuming that for sure you are going to write the first hello world code there. Yeah. So coming on to the concepts, the next one is you should have an idea of classes and objects here, the various data types which we are going to discuss here, the primitive data types, string and the other references, the basic operators. So all these are going to be a like complete basic stuff here. So the control flow, if and else, for loops, enhanced for loops, switch case, then the constructors, default and the parameterized constructors and the access modifiers. So all these basics you need to understand. Now beside this, another thing which you need to do is the interface and the abstract class. So this is very important. Then we need to understand more about the OOP concept like inheritance, polymorphism, overloading, overriding, some important keywords also like this, super, final, static and where. All these are required. So if you are not aware about the where, so this where keyword was introduced in Java 10. So just to learn a bit more about this, so we don't have a particular video on our channel regarding where, but if you will find a video, then surely you will get a good video on YouTube and you can watch that. So it is going to be good. Now, one of the important thing which I would like to highlight here is, let me just take this pen here. Yeah. So this enums. So this is a particular topic which generally people ignore and basically the freshers ignore while learning Java. So it should not be done. You should have a complete idea of the enums from the starting itself. so that whenever you are coding, you can understand that at what point of time you need to go for a string and at what point of time you need to go for the enums. So at all times, strings are not going to work fine. Like there are some of the situations where you feel enums are better. Basically, like when your code is having something like gender as a variable. So enums are better instead of a normal string. And then there are some other different conditions also. Let's say there is some status you need to change from valid to invalid and something like this. So enums are better. And that's why you see that whenever we are also coding on our channel, so in almost all the basic code also, I try to go for the enums because it's important, and as a good practice, you should switch to enums instead of strings. But that's not always, yeah. So then you should be having a good idea of the object class. Object class, the equals method, hash code method, toString method, all these are good. String and string builder. So again, this is important. Now, some of you will point me that, okay, what about string buffer? So the answer is that string buffer is deprecated. So there is no need to learn about string buffer now. If you are a seasoned developer, you know string buffer, it's well and good. But if you are a fresher, then there is no need of string buffer. You can just simply ignore it, and instead of it, go for string builder. Try to understand what is the difference between two and have a good idea of this. Then the next one is that obviously you need to take some input from the user. I mean, directly you are not going to create a web application. So you need to take input with the help of a keyboard. So for that, go for scanner instead of any other stream or something like that. And a bit idea about garbage collection. Now you may argue that, okay, how many times in your day-to-day coding you are going to do the garbage collection? You need to think about that. The answer is yes. I'm not going to worry about the garbage collection in my day-to-day coding as such. But the point is that still, if we want to call ourselves as a Java developer, there are some of the concepts which should be clear to us, so that there should be a complete basic ideas, and whenever required, we can utilize them. So hence, garbage collection is just a short topic, and you should have an idea of this. Now, all these were the core Java concepts. So some Java basics. Now, if I say that in how much time you can learn this, so this completely depends on you, like how much time you want to spend. So if you say that I just want to spend 1 hour, so this is a bit difficult. 1 hour is not going to be enough for all this. Yeah, if you are just going to refresh your memory, then it's fine, because most of these topics you must have learned in your college. So that's a separate scenario. But when I say that you need to learn these topics, I don't mean to say you need to read. I mean to say you need to actually code. Try to code a little bit of things, like try to make some small examples, some small snippets, some small demos with the help of enum, string builder. Try to learn those things. Try to learn the interview questions also parallelly. Like this is also a very good technique. Whenever you are learning a particular topic, try to see what other kind of interview questions can be asked from this topic. And hence you will get a more better idea about the importance of that particular topic. So all these things need to be done. And I would say that it would be great if you can spend around, let's say, around 7 to 10 days for these core Java topics. It is going to be great. And 10 days are going to be enough for this. If you are something like a slow learner like me, then you can even spend something like 15 to 20 days. And that's completely up to you. Like no one is pushing you as such. Now, moving ahead. So now we are done with the core Java concepts. And if you wish, you can like the video now itself. And also you can subscribe to our channel also after this core Java concepts. Now, if you will ask me, currently on our channel, we don't have much videos regarding these topics. The reasons are these are most of the basic topics. So even if I'll create a video on enums, like how much views will I get? At the end, that also I need to think. So I'm ready to spend more time on enums, but how much views I will be getting. So later on, whenever our channel is going to grow, we are going to have a better audience. We'll surely go for the live sessions for this core Java, but not as of now. Till then, you need to just read from some other websites like Tutorials Point or Java T Point, or you can watch some other YouTube channels for the basic part, and that's going to be good. And these are the things you can even read from a book also if you are having some. So let's move with the advanced Java concepts. So just with the help of core Java, you also know that we can't do anything much. So we need to learn some advanced topics. So the first advanced topic which I want to consider is the inner class. Now this is again a topic which I would say that it's not mandatory that you are going to learn about the inner class, but at least try to have a basic idea about anonymous inner class. See that why do we need the anonymous inner class? Because if you can make the concept of anonymous inner class stronger, then later on whenever we are going to learn the advanced other Java topics like Lambda and Stream, it is going to be helpful for you. So hence, at least anonymous inner class you should learn. Other inner class topics, if you wish, you can ignore in the starting. Later on, whenever you are preparing for the interviews, at that point of time, you can learn this thing. The next one is for sure multi-threading and concurrency. And I don't think so there is any developer that he says that I'm a Java developer, but I don't know about multi-threading and concurrency. Yeah? So this is a very important topic. And seeking the importance of this topic on our channel, you are going to find the complete 2 different videos for this. So there is a special video dedicated to multi-threading, and then there is a complete dedicated video to the concurrency. The best part is that in concurrency, we are using the same concept, same backend concept, which we are using in multi-threading. So first you can watch multi-threading, then you can watch the concurrency. And in that video, I have covered almost all the important parts of multi-threading and concurrency. That also with the help of demo, and those demos are made with the help of JDK 17, which is almost the latest one. I mean, as of now, industry is not going to switch to JDK 21. So it is currently latest only. So try to have a look on them. Don't just watch those videos, parallelly try to code also. And for this, you can easily download the code from my GitHub channel also. Yeah? So that can be done. Sorry, not GitHub channel, but simply Git. Then coming on to the wrapper class. So yeah, the idea of wrapper class is important. You should have an idea because then only you will be able to learn more about generics. And why generics is important? Because we want to learn about the collection framework. So everything is actually in the sequence. You can't directly go for the collections framework without learning generics. Like if you wish you can go, but then you will be confused that okay, why there is something like this brackets, why there are these angular brackets, how the data is getting passed, and why this is working, why the other thing is not working. So for that, you need to have a complete idea of generics, and for that, you should have a basic idea of wrapper class. So I have covered the concept of wrapper class and generics in one single video, and the concept of collections framework. So in the collections, I'm showing you all about the list, the set, the map, and even the queues also I'm showing you. So that is again a big video, so you can have a look around it, and you can try the things on your own parallelly. Sometimes if you feel the videos are too slow, like if this video also if you feel is too slow, then you can watch it at 2x. That's an option which you are getting, so try to do that. Now going for the next part is exception handling, which is again very important. So I have seen the freshers that sometimes what they do is that they simply code everything and then they leave the things. Like sometimes your output is just giving you the null, sometimes it's giving null pointer exception, sometimes it's some other kind of exception, and then they say that okay, see, that was the requirement, I passed some value which was not valid, so it is throwing me the error, and that was the requirement. It was never a requirement. The requirement is always to show a user-friendly message to the user. And for this, you need to learn the art of exception handling. Try to learn about try, catch, and finally. Not only this, you also need to learn about try with resources. So on my channel, you will find this video very easily regarding exception handling, covering each and every concept of this, even the custom exceptions also, like how to create the custom exceptions, how to throw those exceptions on your own. So all those things have been covered here, and all these are important topics. So out of them, I will say all are important. For this anonymous, if you feel that you are not having enough time, you can ignore this particular one, but at least have an idea about the anonymous part. Yeah, I mean, I can't write much better than this with the help of my mouse, so just ignore that. Now going for the next thing, the modern Java. So the modern Java, like although we are in Java 17 or Java 21 now, but still whenever you will go for the interview, most of the times you will be asked queries or the questions regarding Java 8 concepts, because Java 8 actually gave is something very advanced concepts. So these are very, very important here. And for them, the very first one is the lambda expressions. Now I have created a dedicated video, and interestingly, we have got, I guess, more than 1800 views for this lambda expression. And yeah, for me, even that much amount is good. Otherwise on my videos, I guess just something like 100 or 200 videos hardly. So 1800, I'll consider it as the highest viewed video on my channel till now. So this lambda expression, and the interesting part of this video is that while you are watching the video, at the same time you are actually learning the concept step by step. So you can try the things, and step by step you do just one simple precondition that have a basic idea about anonymous inner class, which I mentioned you in the previous slide also. So have an idea, and this concept is going to be ready for you, and you can even clear your exams just by watching this. Almost everything has been covered. Now once your lambda is covered, go for the streams API. So again, in the streams API, dedicated videos there, all the concepts have been covered, and these are the important things. And the importance will not only come by learning the concept. So if you will learn the concept and you are not going to use it, believe me, you will forget. So even when I was a trainer, so initially, if I just tell you the experience, that initially when I was teaching these concepts, so at that point of time, I just read it for the first time and I said that, okay, this is fine. But I was not comfortable till the point I started actually using them. So if you will just read the concept, you will feel that, okay, it is great, and later on you will forget. But if you want to answer better in your interview questions, then you need to use these things in your day-to-day coding. Try to see that where you can enhance your code. And you don't need to go for your final lambda expression directly or the streams directly. Even in the video of lambda expression, I'm showing from the complete scratch that how you can make your very basic code to a lambda using code. So everything is shown there. Then the next one is optional class. So again, for this, there is a video. Then there is datetime API. And again, this is a topic which most of the people ignore. Like whenever we say that, okay, what are the Java 8 features? So they say that, okay, lambda is there, they say streams are there, they say optional is there, and then they simply ignore the datetime. Don't do that. So I see still there are many freshers who are just making usage of the date class, or they are just trying to make usage of the calendar class, and that is not at all required. Like nowadays, you need to go for datetime API. We are asking the people to use JDK 21 after some time. Currently, JDK 11 or JDK 17 is being used in your project. So how can you go for the date or the calendar class till now? You need to learn the local date, local time, local date and time. So everything has been explained in detail again in this video of datetime API. Then interface methods enhancement. So for this, again, this part is important. So first you have learned the interface. Now what happens is that when we are initially learning the interface, and if you are going to read it from a particular book, or if you are going to watch a particular tutorial also, so there people may just say you that, okay, interface is just going to have all the methods as public and abstract by default. And that's true also. But since Java 8 onwards, you can even make your interface methods with the body also. So you can have concrete interface method with the help of the default keyword. And then you can also have those interface methods as static. With Java 9, you can even have the private methods in your interface. So just have an idea about all these. I don't have any video as such for this. So if you will ask me for the video, so currently there is no video, but still you will find the content very easily on the YouTube or some website. So just have an idea regarding this. Again, all these are important. So at some point of time, you may now thinking that, okay, this person is again and again pointing to his videos and the goal is only to promote his channel. The answer is little bit yes also. I mean, everyone wants to promote their channel, but the reality is why I'm doing this, because I have already created it. Wherever I haven't made any video and I feel the concept is important, I'm already mentioning you that. If you don't want to watch these concepts from my video, it's fine. Perfectly fine. If you say there is a better video available, you can watch all these videos from that particular video. But my only point is just have an idea of all these concepts if you want to learn Java. Without that, it is not possible. So these are very important concepts. And some of you may say that, okay, we are just having experience of 6 months or 1 year. Is it important for us? The answer is yes, it is important for you. Still, it is important for you. Yeah. Because even in your interviews, they are going to ask you about at least these basic questions. Now, it is not even modern Java. This is something which is used most of the times. Now, moving ahead beyond Java. So till now, that was all about Java. Now let's talk about a little bit beyond Java. But I'm not mean to say any different language. We are going to relate with this only. So the next one is file handling. So here, when I use the term file handling, so I want to go for the concept of input-output streams. So in Java, many times, you want to read the data from, let's say, a text file. You want to write the data in, let's say, some Excel file. So for this, we go for the input-output streams and the concept of serialization. So all these things are also required. So you can have an idea. If you feel that initially you don't have enough time, then I would say that you can ignore this topic. Yeah. So if you feel that currently you don't see there is any requirement of this thing, then you can ignore this topic. So I'll consider it as optional. But whenever you will get at least some amount of time, just have a look on this concept of file handling, input-output stream, and it is very interesting topic. At some point of time, it is going to be required for you. Yeah. The next one is SQL. So yeah, this is something outside Java, but why now I have added this SQL here is because afterwards, with the help of Java also, you need to interact with your database. So when Java needs to interact with the database, at least you should have a clear idea about the database queries. And for the database queries, if you want to have an idea, then there can't be anything better than SQL. So have a basic idea of SQL queries like select, update, delete, different where conditions, having condition, try to write some joins also. And this much is going to be enough for you. And sometimes these SQL based questions are also asked from the Java developers in the interview. So again, this is something common. Then once it is done, the next part is that now you need to connect your Java with the database. So for which JDBC is required. Now you say that, okay, my project is using Spring. So we will surely come to Spring after this slide. But before that, as of now, let's assume that there is no need of Spring. And we are before the era of Spring. Sometimes you get a project which is not using Spring or Spring Boot. Then what will you do? So at that point of time, there needs to be an idea of JDBC for you. And even if your project is using Spring, still you need to know the basics of the things. And hence the JDBC is important. And there is not a single video, but a whole series available. If you don't want to watch the whole series, you feel there are extra topics, you can ignore some of the topics. But there are some basic topics like how to make a connection with the database, how to write basic methods. I mean, at that point of time only you will come to know that, okay, with JDBC, things were this much difficult. Like even when I code, I show that when JDBC, if you want to just say something like a select query, you need to write around a code of something like 15 to 20 lines. With Hibernate, you just need to write a code of something like 4 to 5 lines. With Data JPA, there is just a 0 line of code in order to read because the read method is by default available. So you should need to learn about this again. Then the Apache Maven. So again, this is very, very important concept here. So I wish to write here IMP, but I'm not good by writing with the help of mouse. So you consider it as important here. But Apache Maven is important here, guys. Without this, you cannot even succeed with your Spring Boot also. Like Spring Boot also at the backend is going to make usage of the either Apache Maven or Gradle. And you need to learn at least one of them. Why Apache Maven only I have considered here? Because it is mostly used. If not Maven, then go for the Gradle here. Then the next one is the Hibernate concept. So again, this is important. And as I mentioned is, these topics I'm mentioning on the view that you are not going to use Spring in your project. If you are using Spring, then already you have Spring Data JPA, which can make your job easier. But with the Hibernate, at least you will have a better idea regarding the entities, the mappings, the various ways of generating the primary keys, the various ways of associating the different objects, the entity lifecycle and all these. And currently, as you know, if you are a viewer of our channel, then you know the Hibernate series is going on. On every Friday, I generally release a Hibernate video. On this Friday, I'm releasing this video here. So you can subscribe again to our channel. Like that is the first thing which you should do now if you like this video. So subscribe the channel and watch all these videos. Hibernate playlist is still going on. So you're not that much late. Apache Maven, I've already created around 4 videos and JDBC 8 videos are there. Then RESTful web services. So again, the concept is if your code or your project is not using Spring and still it is trying to interact with the web application, some UI application. So you need to have an idea about RESTful web services. That is required because if you will say that without Spring, how can we make APIs? So RESTful web services is the answer. Currently on our channel, there is no video for this. And also a single video cannot do the job. We need to go for the complete playlist itself. Yeah. Now for that playlist, as of now, I'm not planning to go for the RESTful web services after Hibernate, but my plan is to go for the Spring. Later on, whenever we will get time, we'll go for the RESTful. But till then, at least have a basic idea of the RESTful web services. Also, it is good from the perspective of interview. So here, that perspective also I'm considering here that when you are giving interview, you should know about this RESTful web services also here. Yeah. Now, moving ahead, the favorite part, Spring umbrella here. This umbrella I thought to use instead of the framework. Like everyone knows it is Spring framework, so I thought to go for the umbrella word here. So in Spring, we'll say the first thing when you just want to start. So from that point, I'm saying you the very first thing which you need to understand about the basics of Spring. Most of the people ignore that part. They directly say we will use Spring Boot, and then they make most of the mistakes. They are using Spring Boot, they are able to code, but they don't know the meaning of @Spring Boot application annotation. When we ask them, they say that okay, this is the annotation which is used to run the Spring Boot application, and that's it. So in order for that, first of all, you need to learn the basics of Spring. So have an idea of IOC, inversion control, have an idea of dependency injection, have an idea of constructor injection, setter injection, at what time you should go for which kind of injection, have a basic idea about logging also. So logging is also available here. So try to go for logging. Now, one thing which you need to consider here is that whenever you are learning the Spring, so in most of the videos, like currently we have not started the series, so I can't ask you to watch my videos for this. So if you're watching someone else's video, try to go for the videos which are using the annotation based approach or the Java based approach. Don't go for the XML based approach because it is old and most of the projects nowadays are not using the XML. Try to go for a Java based approach here. Now the next one is once you are clear with the Spring, you can now switch on to the Spring Boot. So a basic application with the Spring, and then you can switch on to the Spring Boot. Now while I'm mentioning this, I'm actually telling you about my future videos also. So the future series is going to be something like this. So go for the Spring Boot, have a complete idea about Spring Boot. Now what I mean by Spring Boot here. Here, with the help of Spring Boot, I basically mean a simple application which is not interacting with any kind of database and it is not interacting with any kind of UI. You need to give the input from your keyboard. So that Spring Boot application I'm asking here. So try to learn about that first of all. There are also so many annotations there and each and everything is very important from the perspective of interview. So if you're a developer with something like 1 year, 2 year or 3 or even 4 or 5 year of experience, these questions are going to be very important for you. Like various different annotations @component, @Spring Boot annotation. Then there is something your profiles is there, EOP concept is there, logging is there. So everything you can learn here. And that also without interacting with any kind of database or UI. Once you are clear with that, then the time is to interact with the database. So start interacting with the database. Now here data JPA things are going to become easier for you if you know how to create your entity and where you can learn the entity with the Hibernate part. The things are again going to become easier for you whenever you wish to do the one-to-one or many-to-one mapping because already you have learned in the Hibernate. So whatever you learned there, even you say that my code is not directly making usage of the Hibernate, still they are going to be helpful for you. And that's the only purpose why I chose for the Hibernate series instead of the Spring series directly. Many people still say me that okay, that was a wrong decision, but you can tell me whether it is going to be helpful for you or not by telling me in the comments. Now the next one is Spring MVC. Spring MVC I'll say is something like optional here. So let me just write here O. So here with the Spring MVC, the most important part which you need to learn is the MVC architecture. What do we mean by MV and C here? And this is one of the most common interview questions. If I'm going to take your interview, believe me, I will ask you that kind of question from the Spring Boot about the MVC architecture. Others are also going to ask you this particular question. Now why this MVC is important? Because earlier there was a time when we were trying to make everything with the help of Spring only. So even the backend as well as the front end. So the view also we were trying to create on our own. We were not communicating with the Angular or the React or something. We were trying to make everything on our own. Hence Spring MVC is important. Nowadays, when we have something like Angular, we have React.js and all this where you can make beautiful UI, you don't need to learn each and every detail about MVC. So a basic idea of model view controller is enough here. And that's it. Once you are clear with that, then the most important part is the REST. And here we can make the REST APIs, everything which are ready to be consumed from the other UI application. It can be Angular, it can be your React.js, it can be a web application, it can be a mobile application. At the backend, REST will do your job. With the database, data JPA will do the job. And how like you are going to make your service layer and everything in your code. So you have already learned in basics and boot. So this is actually the right path. If you're directly jumping in the Spring REST, you will feel it is difficult. If you're directly jumping to the data JPA, you will feel it is difficult because you have actually skipped these classes of the basics here. So if you're going to skip the basics, the advanced part is automatically you are going to become difficult because then you need to do extra amount of hard work. You need to learn the concept of REST also, data JPA also, and boot also. So that's why I say that always go in the sequence. Now, till now, whatever I have explained, like these are most of the common things which are expected from a Java developer. Like that's it. Most of the things, most of the times your interview questions are going to revolve around these concepts only. Besides this also, there are a few more things like Spring security. Obviously, if you are making a web application, you can't say that it's going to be an unsecure application. You are going to implement the security. Now, what my understanding is, you can tell me in the comments whether you agree or disagree with this, that till now, whatever you learned, this was something that it should be there on your tips. Even I will ask you to do that. Like if there is any kind of annotation, any kind of property, it should be there on your tips, how you need to do that. Spring security is a part where everyone wants to have their own implementation. Some of the people like to go for the database security, like they say that the username password is in the database in the encrypted format. Some of them say no, that we want to go for the OAuth authentication. Like many times you see that you go on a website of one particular website, but there if you just give your Gmail ID, things are going to work fine for you. They validate that okay, you are only the particular person. Sometimes there is something like LDAP also, which is used in most of the organization. So Spring Security is something where you should not focus more. Like here, just have a brief idea of Spring Security, how you can do this particular thing. Then whenever required, as per your project, you can learn that particular flavor of the security. Like there is nothing, like even if you will ask me that, okay, do you remember everything regarding security on tips? The answer is no, I don't remember. But what I remember is all these initial things. That is something which I remember always. Yeah. Then comes the Spring Microservices. So this is again an advanced thing here. So once you are clear with all the basic stuff here till Spring REST, then only you should go for Spring Microservices part. And this is also used in most of the project. Nowadays, most of the projects are not monolithic in nature. They are with the microservices. And with microservices, again, then we see there are too many things. Like microservices is not just a one single topic. There are again different layers how you can make your project a microservices. For the microservices itself, I'm planning around 10 to 12 different videos with one concept in each and every video. And all these things are going to be there in future on our channel. So if you wish, you can invest in advance. And when I say invest, so I don't need any money from you. The only thing which I need is the support, which you can just give me by liking this video, by subscribing to the channel and commenting in the chats. And that's important. Like then only YouTube is going to promote this particular thing. So again, I say microservices for the advanced, but at least this particular line. So till here you need to do everything. You can't skip any of the things except MVC detail. You can skip, at least have a basic idea of MVC architecture. Yeah. So the next part is testing here. Now testing is also again important here. Now some of you may say that, okay, if we are a developer, why should we do the testing? What will the QA person will do? The answer is yes, QA person will do, but they are going to test the whole application. The functionality you can only test in detail because you have created it. And for that, you need to have a basic idea of JUnit as well as Mockito. So with the help of JUnit, you need to write the test cases. With the help of Mockito, you need to mock those things which are not even developed. So let's say you want to test your controller layer, but your service layer is not ready. So you can mock the service layer, and that's the purpose of Mockito. But again, these things, first you can learn the important concepts till Spring. Then you can come here, or parallelly whenever you get time, you can learn these things as per the requirement. But at least these are the minimum 2 things which you should know here. Yeah. Moving on to the next part is integration. Now this is even more advanced part. So I have already explained you the important roadmap. So the important roadmap has been covered till now. Now whatever I'm telling you is something advanced. So generally when you are having experience of something like 6 years plus, 7 years plus, then these things become more important to you because you are assumed that you should be knowing about these things. And these things are like CI/CD using Jenkins. So you should be having an idea. Docker, Kubernetes, cloud computing, Apache Kafka. Because again, you can connect your Spring Boot application with all these things. So a very basic idea of these things are required. Again, then we have like the specialized people who work for these things, and then they also know more than us. But it would be great if at least we know a basic of these things. And I'm not saying that these are required for a fresher, so don't take that much burden. I've already mentioned you, Spring REST is more than enough for you. But when you are having more experience, so you should be having a very basic or a brief idea about all these things, and at least for your interviews. Like many times on the LinkedIn and other websites also, we see there is a meme that people ask about Kubernetes unnecessarily, and then in the project there is no need of Kubernetes. So yeah, that's the thing, how the interview process works here. Yeah. Then some extra techniques. So again, everyone needs to focus here. So these techniques are important for each one of us. Here, there is nothing new for learning. Yeah? But again, these are the basic techniques which everyone should be aware of, even a fresher. So the number one technique is the debugging. Many times what happens is our code is throwing a particular error and we are not able to tell what is the error. So as a developer, if you can't tell what is the error, then that means that you must have copied your code from somewhere. So you should know what is the error. For this, you should know how to debug your code. Now for this, it is your wish, whatever the way you wish to debug. If you wish to use, let's say you are using an IDE, then there are some checkpoints, and that way if you want to debug, it's fine. If you say, no, I want to debug by printing these sysout statements, it's fine. It is your choice. At the end, you should be able to tell the solution. Like I feel so. If you disagree with me, then you can tell me in the comments. Like you tell me what is important, knowing how a tool is going to debug or knowing how to debug. Yeah. So I feel that even if a person is able to debug with the help of sysout, it is sufficient. Yeah. But I'm not saying that we should stop learning after that. Then the next part is logging. So as I say, always sysout is not going to do the job. Like imagine you created a particular code, it is running on a particular server. How will you say that it is going to just sysout something? You cannot see the console or all those things. So at that point of time, logging is important. And logging, when you should learn, when the moment you have started learning your Spring Boot, at that point only you should learn the logging. Within the Spring Boot part, logging can be learned, and it is very easy. You don't need to do anything different for this. You can learn these things side by side. Hence I'm saying these are just a technique. You don't need to learn anything separate for this. The next part is Lombok. So Lombok is also famous nowadays. Lombok is again something that you should learn. The moment without Spring also you can learn the Lombok. While using the Spring also you should learn the Lombok. Generally in my videos currently I'm not using Lombok because my point of view is that at least when you are starting learning the Spring Boot, then don't go for the Lombok. Try to write all the annotations, everything on your own. Once you are clear with the basics, then only try to enhance your code with the Lombok and see the advantages. Directly if you will go, you will neither learn the basics nor you will appreciate Lombok. Yeah? Again, you can tell whether you agree or not. The next part is best practices. So this is something very, very important. Now, if you will say me which best practice, the answer is each and every best practices. So till the point I see there are freshers, or sometimes I interact with some freshers, some trainees and some other people. Now what the mistake which they do is they will see a particular let's say the requirement, they will code everything perfect as per the requirement. The mistake which they do is they start their variable names with the capital letter, they start the class name with the small letter, and then somewhere unwanted they have the comments. At some point of time they are using the unused variables. So you should be using the best practices. Try to use all the best practices at all point of time. Yeah, the moment you are writing your very first hello world code, the moment you are learning about the data types and all these things, the variables, start learning all the best practices also parallelly. Don't miss any of these things, because in the big projects they are going to work, the seniors are also going to work along with you. Yeah, now just imagine that you coded everything fine, but you are using the wrong variable names or all the wrong things like this. Then even if your functionality is working, they are not going to approve your code, and then they are going to reject your PR. The reason is you're not following them. So best practices is important. Sometimes when you are learning, then you can ignore in order to learn something. Yeah, I mean, in order to learn from the mistake, first of all we need to do the mistake. So do mistake, but learn from that particular one. Yeah, so remember the best practices. And finally, this is the last slide which I'm having, so that's the tools. So yeah, the first one is your DB manager here. So when I say that you need to interact with the database, so obviously you will be using some kind of DB manager. It can be MySQL Workbench, it can be pgadmin, it can be dbeaver, or it can be something else. So have a good idea about that. Don't just simply use it for a basic thing. Try what better things you can do. The more better idea you will be having for your tools, the more easier your life is going to be as a developer. And also you need to go for the Postman, because how will you test your API? So Postman is important again here. Try to go for Git. Again, one of the most common mistake which we see is people code everything, then they try to keep the things in their local environment. The point is that you cannot trust your local environment. I can't trust on my laptop because I don't know at what time it can go corrupt. Yeah? So it's better whenever you code, try to push all your things on the Git and try to make a better Git repository. For all my codes also, whichever I show in my video, those are available in the Git repository, and that is for, you don't need to spend anything for this, but still you don't even go to the my GitHub URL, you are not downloading the code, so that is your choice. The next one is IDE. So you can see the sequence is not working fine here. So the next one is IDE. So obviously you will be using some IDE like Eclipse, STS, or IntelliJ or something. So just try to learn everything about your IDE. Stick to one IDE, and that's more than sufficient. My favorite one is Eclipse, and in STS also I use the Eclipse variant, and that is my favorite one. So try to learn more and more about your IDE so that you can make your work simpler. Then the next important part is SonarLint here. So this is something which you should be having in your IDE. So if you're using Eclipse, STS, IntelliJ, or whatever it is, always try to have this plugin of SonarLint. And whenever you have completed your coding and you are about to push your code to the Git, always do a SonarLint check. It will always tell you about the best practices. If you have forgot any best practices, it will remind you about all those things. And for this, you don't need to take anyone's help. And this is the last final thing, that is ChatGPT. So now, as you know, we are in the era of AI. So if I will tell you that, okay, I don't use ChatGPT while coding, believe me, I'm lying if I do that. Yeah. The answer is that even I use ChatGPT when I actual code or when I code for these particular demos. I try to make usage of ChatGPT. Yeah. But the thing is that you can't get everything from the ChatGPT. For that also, you should be knowing the basics. Only when you know the basics, then you will come to know your mistake, and then only you can enhance it with the help of ChatGPT. Directly you will say that, okay, I will ask ChatGPT to make a lambda function for me. Yes, it will make, but then how will you able to answer that, how you have made that particular one? If someone will ask you, or if your manager itself will ask you, then how will you answer it? Yeah. And the next thing is Bard. So if not ChatGPT, then Bard. That's again a tool. And in future, if something else will come, then that also can be an addition here. So again, all these tools you can utilize here. And these are just some of the tools which I have mentioned. There can be many more also depending on the requirement. The list is not the final thing. But yep, this was a complete roadmap. And this is something which I actually followed. So I'm not just telling you in order to make a video, but I actually followed this particular path. And then I'm using them in my almost day-to-day coding. And that's why I'm able to make these videos also. So now, if you trust me, if you like the videos, then you can like this video. You can tell me in the comment section that when you are watching. Are you watching in 2023 just after the release, or you are watching it in 2024? Is it still relevant for you? I mean, maybe I don't know whether it is going to be relevant for you or not. So you can tell me, and you can surely subscribe to the channel. For the past videos, you can check the series. And regarding the Spring series, yes, it is going to be there very soon. The moment we will finish the Hibernate series, we will go for the Spring series. But before that, at least let's try to have 1,000 subscribers. I mean, still we are around less than 650. So let's try to reach the count of 1,000 now. Thanks everyone, and Happy New Year. See you in the next year.